Welcome back, Lisa Rinna. I've missed you so much since your family packed their bags, loaded them in your mouth, and skipped town.
And does it match the blood you found inside Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Yes, it's all from the same individual.
Then you mean all this time we could have been friends?
Judges your score.
Tell us what you don't like about yourself.
I'd like to go to Dreamland.
I'll take you there.
Who are you?
I'm Constance Langdon, and this is my fucking house.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ryan Murphy Project, a podcast where we take a look at the life and career of one of TV's most prolific showrunners. I'm Eric Wilson.
And I am Andrew Leon.
Andrew, it's our first episode together. It's our first podcast together.
I know. You know what? I've actually always wanted to do a podcast.
I'm glad we're doing it together.
I know, yeah. I mean, seriously, if I didn't do like my own podcast, I don't think I could do it with anybody else. You know, because seeing you every week is actually nice, and sometimes I haven't laughed all day, and then I see you.
And then I see you.
And then I'm like, oh.
You're just so funny looking.
Now I can laugh. And so then, you know, you already have your podcast, Tender Friends.
Yeah.
Light plug. Mm-hmm. And so then, and Eric's been doing that for a long time. And I've never been on a podcast other than Tender Friends. And now here we are, intro episode to the Ryan Murphy Project.
Our pilot.
Our pilot. So
we've been wanting to do a podcast together for a while. And we wanted to, it started out kind of as a Glee podcast where we were just going to recap Glee.
Yeah.
But there's a few of those already out there. And we decided really we wanted to touch on Ryan as a whole more so than Glee, because then we were like, well, American Horror Story is also something that we love and wanted to watch together again. So we just figured, why not just do Ryan's entire catalog?
And then, you know, he has a good catalog, and there's a lot to say about that man.
There's so much to say. There's so much to cover. It's a huge endeavor. It's going to be so many years in the making to cover his entire catalog. And we're going to touch on every show, every movie, every reality show, every project that he touched, we're going to try and cover in our tenure here on this show.
Well, okay, so I explained the structure because I couldn't be able to do it. I'd be like, we're watching the pilots, everyone, season 1.
So this is how it's going to work. So right now, there are 12 scripted shows that Ryan Murphy has written, directed, or produced.
Okay.
But we are going to go through and cover each one of these shows. We're going to recap it. We're going to discuss it. We're gonna find different elements that we want to pull apart and dissect and kind of see how Ryan has progressed over his career. So we thought the best way to do that, instead of going show by show, was to do all the shows at once, which seems like a fucking mess.
Yeah, it does seem like a mess, right? but it's not. It's not.
It's not. So the idea is we are going to cover each show at the same time, which will be a lot to juggle, a lot to keep track of. But it'll be interesting to see the progression kind of almost immediately. And then we're able to go, from there. So what we're going to do is, this is a twice weekly podcast. Every Sunday and Wednesday we have a new episode. We will cover the shows in order chronologically from when they were released. His first show was Popular. His most recent release, as of this recording, is Hollywood. So we're going to cover the pilots of all 12 of those shows first, and then the next 12 episodes are going to be the second episode of all those shows, and so on and so forth. New shows will be added, obviously. He's an ever-growing mogul. So
I love mogul. Like, I always picture a young rapper saying mogul, but Ryan Murphy too.
But that's the thing, I also picture Ryan Murphy when someone says young rapper. So here's the rundown of the shows we're going to do in this order. We're going to start with Popular, which was Ryan's first show, and then Nip Tuck, and then Glee, and then American Horror Story, and then The New Normal, and then Scream Queens, American Crime Story. We will do both of those seasons one after the other. We won't do them at the same time. So it'll be first The People versus O.J. Simpson, and then the assassination of Gianni Versace. And then Feud, And then 911, we will not be doing 911 Lone Star until we finish 911. As much as we're so excited to do 911 Lone Star, we think it's best that we do a spin-off after we've completed the first.
Even it's just like that. It's called Lone Star. I'm not into that.
Yeah, I mean, I could care less about the show, but we have to do it. And then Pose, and then The Politician, and then Hollywood.
Yeah, what a slate.
So we have some really great shows. Some shows that we know, some shows that we don't. Some I've never seen, some I've seen too many times. Some of them are some of my favorite TV shows ever. So there's a wide range of emotion, a wide range of taste here. And I'm excited to dive in and kind of dissect it.
And we should say right off the bat that, just spoiler alert. For all of these shows, because,
Andrew is very adamant about discussing a spoiler alert, which is inherent to a recap show.
Someone's going to say something. And if there's 100 people in a room and one person says something, then I see that one person. Anyways, yeah, because we're not we're going to be reviewing, obviously, and talking in depth about all of it. And, we encourage you to watch with us. And then we also encourage you to watch that episode when it's released. And then you can hear us talk about it. That's what podcasts do.
Yeah.
We started this because I have random opinions. You have random opinions.
Strong random opinions we both have.
So, yeah, let's talk about us being podcasters. Because I feel like some people scoff at it. Some people are like, well, what qualifies you to do a podcast? Nothing.
I don't know that anybody asks what qualifies you to do a podcast.
You don't think so?
There's so many, and everyone just does one. I now have 2. So I feel like in this day and age, it's just like, especially during quarantine, I feel like quarantine is going to be like New Year's Eve for babies, A bunch of podcasts are going to start sprouting up.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, I think that about podcasters, sometimes until I stop caring. And same
you just
thing,
judge them?
And same
You're
thing
like,
with
what's this bitch's credentials?
Well, that threw me for a loop. Hold on. That did.
Okay, so this is our pilot. This is our first episode. Our way of you getting to know us and who we are and why we chose Ryan and why we chose this topic and what we'll be doing going forward. But releasing with this episode is our first recap and review of the pilot of Popular, which was Ryan's first show. And that episode is out now as well. And that will be the more traditional episode that we do going forward. So you can check out that right after this. And we don't want to delay you. So let's get into why we chose this podcast and who Ryan is.
Okay, so is it too dramatic to say that our relationship is built upon Ryan Murphy?
No, I think that's very fitting. I don't think there was ever a moment where we were like, Glee or Ryan Murphy isn't the way to go, because that's something that we talk, both of us, very passionately about to each other.
Yeah, because even when you just first moved out to LA, we would still talk about the shows.
Oh yeah, we should tell people that we're recording in different cities as well.
Yeah, we are so 2020. we are zooming.
We are zooming from my home in Los Angeles and Andrew's home in Chicago.
I am in Chicago. I'm typically shirtless. Oh, I shouldn't say that because it doesn't make sense continuity-wise.
They'll never see. We'll take pictures. So I think the main reason off the bat why we chose Ryan is because his shows are wild. Whether that's good wild, whether that's bad wild, whether that's just off the rails wild. There's something about him, there's something about his show, there's something about his legacy, the drama that surrounds him, that just makes him a fascinating character. And I think we'll touch on it throughout different episodes, specifically what things make him, the prolific showrunner that he is, or someone that we're just fascinated by. But I think right now, suffice it to say, he's just a wild individual that we just want to know more about, and at the same time educate you guys all on him, because he's a mystery to a lot of people, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right there, because he's not, I don't know, if I showed a picture of him to my mom or
Yeah.
to like my little sister, they would be like, oh, okay, who's that white guy? Who's that white gay guy?
Yeah. Yeah, you
know?
probably can't pick him out of a lineup. Even though we are in a time now, I think if you're in the industry or you watch a lot of television or watch a lot of pop culture news or something like that, I think it's we're in a time period now where the showrunner has become a celebrity itself. So that position is almost sometimes as famous as the actors in the show.
I feel like Ryan over time has just like created this circle of celebrities too, and that he constantly works with, and that create their own sort of drama either on the show or just them as a celebrity as well, and it gets loosely attached to him, makes the show more popular. That's an interesting part, because I always like that as far as watching his his catalog is like, oh well, this person is here in this season, and now they're in Hollywood. It's like, how the hell did they get there?
And we'll also be touching on like the auxiliary people in his life: Brad Falchuk, Ian Brennan, Ali Adler, people that he consistently created shows with or worked on a lot of his shows. We will talk about them as well. So we're going to cover a lot of ground here, but we have a lot of episodes to do it. So it sounds daunting, it sounds like a lot, but we promise to give it to you in a way that is both pleasing and makes you feel great inside.
Yeah, and then we also promise you to like hold him accountable for his bullshit too.
Yeah, because there's a lot of bullshit.
Well, because sometimes in his early career, I'm wondering how he's gonna go. Because in his early career, I feel like we could champion him as being like, wow, you're putting like gay, queer voices on TV. You're doing stuff that are revolutionary. And then a lot of times, like, what does that mean now? Because it's like, okay, having a white gay guy make these voices for all these sort of different people and generations, like, what does that mean now? And sometimes it doesn't taste right. And sometimes it's like, well, should you even be saying this or using? I think the best example of like a modern Ryan Murphy trying to like use his voice for some sort of social change and knowledge and still having it fun and campy is Pose. I think that he has done that series incredibly well compared to like the new normal of showing off like gay voices. Because if you haven't figured it out already, we are gay.
We are both super gay.
Because we're making
obviously.
a Ryan Murphy podcast.
Who the fuck else is hosting a Ryan Murphy podcast except two queers from two of the gayest cities in the country?
That's right.
So I think it's also important to note that shows like Pose, a lot of that is not Ryan.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the original vision is some of the themes, some of the storytelling devices are Ryan, and those are instilled from the beginning. And he did direct the pilot, so obviously he has a hand in casting. He has a hand in the design and the look of the show. But at the end of the day, a lot of the Ryan Murphy shows look the same once you get past Nip Tuck. So I think it's important to note, and we will throughout, that there are other key players that will be huge parts of the show, and in some cases, like with Pose, are more important than Ryan. So when we say like the Ryan Murphy moment, or was this peak Ryan, just take it as like that's kind of how we're boiling it down. But we know that Stephen Canals is the person that really runs Pose with Janet Mock. And I think their writing staff is like 4 of them, and so it's. We'll talk about those people as we go, and we'll give them the credit they deserve. But it may seem like we're giving Ryan more credit than he deserves.
Yeah, because we're not gonna blow smoke
we know what
up
we're doing.
Your ass.
Yeah.
Without consent. No, because then
for you smoky hole fetishes.
Then there's because then there's a lot of times and a lot of different shows that he goes off the rails, and sometimes when it's just specifically him too. That those seasons that you're like, oh boy. And then, obviously with like a show like Pose, I feel like it's relatively being kept on track because he's not there all the time. And I think that, to me, that's a part of him, is that he has this really specific high concept ideas. And then by the end of it, it gets real messy and really wild. And sometimes it does it like it diminishes a lot by the way that it ends too. Some series,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, you know, the end of Glee.
We could go on.
The end of Glee. Many seasons of American Horror Story.
Yep.
I already mentioned the New Normal. I'm not gonna mention that again.
I think there's also a point in Ryan's career where he starts more so mentoring people and developing other people's ideas than he does his own. And I think that happened. I think that happened around Pose. You know, he took someone's idea, which was Steven's feature script that he wrote in college, and turned it into a series. Same thing he did with Glee. But then there's like Ratchet. Ratchet wasn't his idea. That was somebody else's. So I think he's now in the business of finding stories that he can relate to, and that he would be proud to tell. So I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot more of that.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because now we're in the Netflix of Ryan Murphy, and that's good because he could be like a Trojan horse to like get these people with different voices actual shows now, because people trust him. He puts his little Ryan Murphy slant, his people in there, and then we're done. Yeah.
And that's what he did with Janet Mock.
Yeah.
She's a writer on Pose, and she's directed a bunch of those episodes. I think she directed episodes of The Politician. She directed episodes of Hollywood. So she's become one of his main go-tos in terms of the big behind-the-camera work.
I know.
But she was also, like, Ryan got a deal. It was $300 million, a 10-year deal at Netflix. Or a 5-year deal.
It was a 5-year deal, yeah.
And to create 10 productions. And then Janet, because of her relationship with Ryan and Netflix, got her own big deal. And that was in part because of Ryan's connection to her.
Because all I knew about Janet before this was just like her activism. And now, she did direct an episode of Hollywood too. Another thing with like Ryan's people that he has around them, I don't know how this is just how I see it. I'm like, oh well, he stopped working with her. Yeah. Like he did not bring her back. And then you never hear from them again, and then you think of their careers and you're like, oh no. So I always think that's funny. I was like, oh wow, he really likes Emma Roberts. You know, like he really likes her, and he really likes Evan Peters, and then Leah Michelle. Just the people who
and I think that's something
continues.
We'll definitely talk about throughout, because there's some cool graphics and charts that show who he's worked with and what shows they've been in. So I think we'll definitely talk about repeat offenders in his like repertory cast. But I think that's one of the most interesting things about him is that he does that. So let's get into we'll obviously touch on Ryan more as we go. Don't worry, a lot of information.
I hope that explained it.
Coming your way. Yeah, it's so much.
Did it?
Tweet us, let us know.
I know.
But we'll touch on more of him as we go as well. But I think it's important that you guys get to know us as well.
Yeah.
So let's get into our relationship. Let's let the people know who we are, right? How we know each other.
Our relationship. The most dramatic relationship.
It is very dramatic. It has, not in the sense of like how us with each other.
Yeah, no,
just like our circumstances.
Like we are dramatic people.
Yes. And we've known each other now. It's been 10 years we've been friends.
Wow. They say...
Isn't that crazy?
What did they say? They're like, if you know someone over...
After 6.
After 6? Oh, you're in my life forever. You're going to be in my wedding.
Sadly. Oh, I hope so.
You fly out, bitch. So, how did we meet? I remember how we met. Do you?
Okay.
Okay, so No, you go.
Oh, you're going to let me
You're
answer
a better
the question?
storyteller. It's my first day.
Okay. No, I don't. I don't know if I have such a bad memory. I don't know if I remember the first moment that we met.
Okay, so Eric and I are both from Pennsylvania. He grew up in Philly, and I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We both went to a college called Kutztown University. I was working as a sort of like whatever is an RA -1, like the next level, sort of desk guy.
You work at the front desk
the front
of the door.
desk, yeah. And then you were just always around in that building doing stuff. And he had an iPhone, and nobody had an iPhone at that time. And he just had an iPhone doing things with that. And so I always knew, I was like, hey, whatever. And then
Can I explain why I was in the building?
why? I don't know where you were in the building. You tell me. He was just walking around doing shit.
Andrew lived in a dorm that also had a few offices on the first floor. And in those offices, I should mention we were both students. It wasn't like I was like fucking
we weren't just
administrator. Yeah. And as a student, there were two offices in there that I actually worked out of. One was this association that I was a part of, and then the other one was my job, which was working in the Imaginarium, which was like the construction and art supply store that the RAs would come to get all their supplies.
I remember
Did you forget about the Imaginarium?
No, but
yeah.
Looking back, I would have fucked that place up if I knew what it was. Imaginarium. I could probably laminate something.
Yeah, I knew how to laminate. I knew how to cut out the door decks. We had construction paper rolls.
Things out. Anyway, so I forgot that you worked there, but okay.
Yeah, so I was always in there, but it was slow a lot of the time. So I would come out to the desk, and whoever was working there, I would just bother them because I was bored, and sometimes it was you.
There I was. And then you secretly saw me on Grindr or something like that. You're like, "What are you doing over here?" So okay.
I did not have Grindr in the year 2010.
You had an iPhone, no Grindr. Okay, we're keeping the story straight. So yeah,
hashtag iPhone, no Grindr.
It's like, who the hell? So I remember you tried to recruit me basically for SAE. That was like our main sort of focus of like what we talked about. And I wasn't out at that point because it was the first semester of my freshman year in college. I wasn't out yet.
Yeah, this was fall of 2010.
Yeah. And then I was like, no, I don't like it here. No, I'm going to transfer. And then, I came back the next semester, and I remembered kind of what you said, and I think we probably met up again. And then, then I went out for SAE, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and then I got recruited into joining, and Eric was a founding father of SAE on our campus.
Because I had an iPhone.
That was the main reason. He took all the pictures for Twitter when it wasn't a thing yet.
So... kind of putting that first semester in context, we became friends slowly, and then I remember you said, I don't like Kutztown, I'm going to transfer, and I was like, all right, if you don't transfer next semester, join SAE then. And you said, and I remember you saying, you're like, I will, and I was like, okay, we'll see if he holds his word, and then you came back and you did, and it had to have been that semester where we started watching Glee together.
Was it? Yeah, I would think so.
It had to be that second
makes sense.
Season,
that's
right?
part of the reason, not to get ahead of myself, but that's part of the reason why I love Ryan Murphy, because in between fall semester and spring semester, that's when I really started, thinking about the fact that I had to come out. And so then I was trying to watch like gay media other than gay porn, and a lot of it was actually really negative. And a lot of it was like, I'm sleeping with you, but I have a wife, or, I have HIV, or, and then Glee at that time was actually like one of the few basic cable shows that were representing gay characters in like such a positive, fun light. And I was like, oh, okay. And I really felt that I really needed that at that time too. And so then that was my first sort of taste of, Ryan Murphy, or, I guess Glee overall. And then, then I guess in the next semester we watched it. What, the first season too, right?
Second season.
Was it the second? Oh, okay. No, it was. Okay, because Blaine and Kurt were dating at that point. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, because I remember thinking, I really want to find my Blaine. Like, I really wanted to be able to
every
date somebody.
Closeted gay person.
I know. Well, Blaine, though. Oh, my God. Dreamboat. So, Glee was definitely a part of my coming out. And then it was a part of my friendship with you. It all kind of, like, had the steps.
Yeah. Those were two formative years, because at that point, I knew I was gay, but I hadn't come out to anybody at that point, except people I was secretly hooking up with. And then we watched Glee that first season, and I remember thinking, I was like, he's gay. I was like, Andrew's gay. I know it. I was like, I'm gonna be friends with this guy, and we're gonna be two closeted gays together, and that'll be like the basis of our friendship. And then you like very quickly came out. I feel like you like processed it, and then you were like, I'm out, coming out fully. And it was right around the time of Gaga too, when she put out Born This Way. So I remember Born This Way was such an anthem for you. Like I remember driving through the cornfields just blasting Born This Way. And like I was coming out secretly through your coming out, I felt like.
Oh, okay.
I was like I'm celebrating too, like, because like I felt I feel like I've never changed around you. I've always been the comfortable type that I've been. Other people, maybe I hide more of my gayness or whatever. Sure. But with you, and that's kind of how that moment felt for me, not to steal your coming out. Because I didn't come out until 6 years after you. I didn't come out until 2016, everybody. I came out to you like 2 years later.
Sure.
But, I mean, you all knew.
Which is a story for another podcast.
The coming out story.
You're coming out. Well, yeah, I remember... Yeah, I took it all in during my winter vacation or my winter break, and then I came back, and then to be honest, I thought I had to come out in a day. No one told me how to come out, so I remember I told one person.
You came out quick,
and then I called everybody. I called my best friend. I called my brother. I called my high school coach, and I was like, okay, I'm out. I really banged that door down. Oh, sorry, my dogs. Anyway, and then just so happened, Lady Gaga comes out with Born This Way, not more than a week after. So, and I don't even know if I can say this, but I remember being in a fraternity basement, and with all the lights off, and then you up top blasting Born This Way.
Oh my God, I remember that.
And I was
I did that on purpose, and
because I remember, I'm like, I feel comfortable because I know Eric is here. Because I was rushing or whatever I was doing at that point. I was a pledge. They don't call it a pledge anymore. But I remember hearing Born This Way, you walking upstairs and being like, okay, cool, Eric's here. I feel good. I'm comfortable.
Born This Way blasted, and then Eric burst through the basement door, and I felt at ease.
Backlighting.
That's how that's a smoke. That's how every coming out story ends. And then Eric appeared.
So funny.
So our early friendship was bonded over Gay Secrets and Gaga and Glee, and in turn Ryan Murphy, because all those things are really a part of Ryan Murphy. That Gaga episode came out that following semester.
Oh my God, it did.
So there were a lot of Ryan Murphy moments within our friendship, especially at the early part of it.
Well, then he picked up his career too, and he ran with it. He ran with it the way I came out. He just kept going.
Yeah.
He
came out with a few shows, and then boom.
Because then American Horror Story was probably the next semester, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I remember being so excited. With
Glee, we were watching it in the dorm like common area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then American Horror Story, by the time that came on, you were living off campus.
Yeah.
And we would watch it at your place.
Mm-hmm. Being so scared too.
Yeah.
I remember we would turn off all the lights.
It was a big group.
Yeah,
there was a big group of us. We would have those viewings.
I know.
At your place.
That was fun. So I guess that's where it took off.
Yeah. Because I feel like with Glee was obviously the first, my first jump into Ryan Murphy world. But I didn't know who Ryan Murphy was at that point. I just knew the show Glee. And it wasn't until American Horror Story where I was like, oh, this is the same guy. Like, these are two completely different shows. They're not even on the same network. They're not the same genre. It's not the same cast.
Yeah.
But these are two shows that we love. And it was because of Glee. We're like, we got to watch this other show. This guy's from the same creators. And that's kind of where we grew to love Ryan Murphy more than just like Glee and American Horror Story.
Yeah, I agree. And we have like that same sort of like analytic mind of TV shows and movies as well. So I don't know.
We like predicting the plot and breaking it down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Eric, my other Eric, I have a partner named Eric who is different than you, Eric Wilson. Eric hates when I break down the plot. I'm like, oh, she's gonna call her mom at the end of this, and then I'm like, ooh, put it back. But yeah, you're one of the few people.
We're both really good at it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I could pick up on it so fast by now.
I remember there was an episode of Glee, and I will talk about it when we get to that episode, but you predicted the whole storyline, and I was like, I did not even see that coming, and you predicted it all, and I was like, oh, well, yeah.
I could smell it.
So that kind of speaks to our qualifications. We can predict storylines.
Yeah, we don't have we don't have no degrees.
No.
We both went to Kutztown, no degrees. We were there to be fraternity guys.
Yeah.
But
we went there to sleep with closeted fraternity men.
Uh-huh.
We succeeded in that. We left with no degrees. Now we both live in different cities. All right, Andrew, let's wrap this up. This was our pilot. This was our way for you guys to get to know us. Obviously, you'll learn more about us and Ryan as we go forward. But we hope you enjoyed this first episode. Next out right now is our popular pilot review and recap and discussion. Because that's what we're going to be doing each week. We're going to be talking about the episode, breaking it down, talking about its themes, what it did well, what it did not do well, whether it was a peak Ryan Murphy moment or a valley Ryan Murphy moment. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode. But we hope you enjoyed this first part.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed our pilot because we're going to be doing pilots for a little bit.
The next 12 weeks
hard.
are pilots.
Let's say
or
this
next 12
right now
episodes.
that this is our pilot and pilots are hard, you know?
Pilots are hard, yeah. And reviewing 12 of them in a row is difficult. But we hope you enjoy the journey and come along with us. Like, share, and subscribe this podcast. It's very important that you do that to help us grow early on and help us get as many followers as we can. So we hope that you share amongst your friends and amongst your American Horror Story book clubs. Leave us 5 stars. Leave us a review.
And you can follow us. You can follow me on the only social media that I have other than a DL Twitter that I use just for porn. You can follow me at Mr. Andrew Leon on Instagram.
Yeah, you can follow me at I Hate Eric Wilson, and you can follow the podcast at the Ryan Murphy Project on Instagram. And we will see you guys in a few minutes because that episode is out, and then we'll see you on Wednesday for our Nip Tuck review. Till then.
All right, see ya.